Hi everyone, I wanted to say thank you for coming to watch my presentation. My name is Chris Winter. I'm a fourth year EAD student specializing in community development, and I'll be getting ready to graduate this semester. But before that, let me tell you guys about the SIA analysis I did for the Sainshand solar power plant in Mongolia. So Mongolia has experienced multiple issues surrounding energy and energy production in recent years, mainly since the 2000s. From burning excess amounts of coal, which represent approximately about 80% of the energy production in the country. There have been other issues such as air quality that have also been arising because of such activity. And all of this has been a real push for Mongolia to increase their development of renewable energy technologies and sources. To also add to these issues, there is a lack of sufficient energy production being done in the country. And so currently only about 80% of the population is supplied electricity through the domestic production of energy. And this has caused Mongolia to heavily rely on imported energy, mainly coming from Russia and from China for the southern half of Mongolia. And this is also partly a result from a lack of refining capabilities, as there is plenty of crude oil reserves found in the country. But due to the lack of refining capability, Mongolia has been forced to export their crude oil while importing oil for more energy productions. And on the right side is a map of where the location of the solar power plant will be in Mongolia. And when you look at the lower picture that is more detailed and zoomed in, you can see two major crossroads pretty close to where the power plant is. And one of which is what used to be known as the Chinese Silk Road, and the other one is the Trans-Mongolian Railway. And these are both significant because they are a key player in the transportation of resources, materials, and labor that is required for the development of the solar power plant. This location that was chosen for the solar power plant is a part of the process that went on with the whole project background, which really began in December of 2005 with the lead study on renewable energy usage in rural areas of Mongolia, and then continuing throughout the years up until the feasibility study for the most suitable project location in April of 2013, approximately 8 years later. Following this, there was the land permission at the city level that needed to be granted, which came later that same year in 2013. And then following that was the construction license in 2014, and then the power purchase agreement and dispatch agreement that was signed in July of 2015, all following the start of the construction, which began in 2017. And this correlates with a lot of activity that was arising within the Mongolian government for efforts to increase their renewable energy policies. And that started with the enactment of the National Renewable Energy Program that began in 2005 and was planned throughout 2020. And for the renewable energy sources and the solar power plant specifically, they aim to reduce reliance on coal for electricity generation and reduce the amount of imported electricity, therefore making the country more energy independent, and increasing the development of clean energy to improve air qualities around the country, as well as to facilitate further infrastructure development and bringing more regional interconnectivity as the country becomes more energy independent and has more of a connected energy grid throughout the whole country. Some specifics for the Sainshand solar power plant is that it covers an area of approximately 714,000 square miles of land and has an installed capacity of 30 megawatts, and that's estimated to produce 57,000 megawatt hours annually. And with that, they would be providing the 27,000 households in Sainshand with clean, renewable energy. The key players in this product development for the Sainshand solar plant involve different avenues and sectors. the Mongolian Parliament, Ministry of Energy, and Energy Regulatory Commission are going to involve the legal proceedings and the policy measures that are going to be involved with the approval and then also the process of the development. Now, Desert Solar Power 1, a project company owned by the United Green Group and German family office Tuscher and Schmid, are the ones that were approved for the actual development of the solar plant after they were the ones that had the proposal for such a project. And after that approval, they contracted ECAP Solutions to actually work on the development and the process of building the solar plant. Now, this also involves financial means, and the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, along with the Dutch Bank for Development, are the two key players that are financing the solar plant development. For the environmental and social impacts that are going to be associated with the project, all of the impact areas were found to have low impact besides one, and those areas include air quality, water, noise, flora and fauna, and socioeconomic. Meanwhile, the impact on land has a medium level of impact, and that's going to be primarily based off the change in land use. It is a very open and flat land that doesn't have any development really in the area, and so bringing in this development project is definitely going to have an impact on that. But meanwhile, on all the other areas with low levels of impact, that is going to be a positive thing. The air impact is going to have low levels because of no atmospheric emissions from the process and the use of PV, which is photovoltaic-based solar power technology. And then, along with the other ones, such as water, noise, flora, and fauna, all having low levels of impact because of the project not really impacting too much of the environment around it other than the land. And then the socioeconomic, even though it has a low level impact, that's going to be based off of no real negative externalities that are going to be inflicted upon the socioeconomic status of the region. And really, there's going to be an influx of labor for the project development that will be required, which is going to end up being a positive impact for the people of the area for jobs and employment. And to add, there wouldn't be any resettlement involved as there are no residents within the project area. When assessing the alternatives within the ESIA for this solar plant development project, there were different locations that were assessed. As you can see, there were 4 of the locations: Taishir, Dorgan, Durgun, and Erdlingingen, which I really hope I was able to pronounce those somewhat right. But looking at that, they were really trying to see just how much potential for solar energy were in each of those areas. And just by looking at the chart from both of the different yields, Sainshand was the area with the highest potential out of all of them. And then looking at the alternative of with or without the proposed project in that area of Sainshand, you can see how without the project, there aren't really any impacts besides negative impact on energy production and employment and job opportunity. When looking at the side where the project is occurring, there is negative impacts that are going to be associated with the ecology of the area, more natural resource things such as wastewater and waste generation, and then also on the health and safety because of dust particles and stuff that will be picked up and put into the air from the project development. But it also provides significant impacts that are going to be beneficial, such as socioeconomic impacts, and then the energy production and employment and job opportunities that are going to be created from construction and completion of the project. When looking at the monitoring and mitigation measures that are going to be taken for the project during and then also after the completion of the project, the ESIA pointed out and listed ESMPs, which are environmental and social management plans. And there are 5 basic key factors that go into these, which include minimizing any adverse environmental, social, and health impacts resulting from the project activities, conducting all project activities in accordance with the Mongolian legislation and applicable EBRD guidelines, as they are the ones financing the project, implementation of ongoing environmental monitoring programs, periodic review of the environmental management programs to allow for iterative improvement, and to ensure that all stakeholder concerns are addressed. And then taking those guidelines for the ESEMP, I also wanted to include how they included ESMPs for planning and construction phase, for operations phase, and for the decommissioning phase, covering all areas from beginning to end and then afterwards. To finish up with my presentation, just going back and kind of assessing the SIA of the Sainshand solar project as a whole, some of the strengths that I noticed was the examination of the current environmental and socioeconomic status, along with changing trends, so there can be a more accurate prediction of how mitigation measures may have to play out in the future. And also their assessment of benefits and costs to the local area of the project to go along with the overall benefits and impacts that it's going to have for the country as a whole as far as energy production and improving air quality. And then sort of going back to the last slide, dealing with the environmental and social management plans, the ESIA included the cost of monitoring and mitigation plans as far as the people that it will have to employ, resources it will have to draw upon, and such. And as far as weaknesses, there's really only one that stuck out to me, and that was how no cumulative impacts were assessed for the ESIA on the project because of a lack of other development projects in the area, instead of trying to still make a more cumulative impact assessment just for the project itself. Thank you so much for joining me and listening to my presentation. I hope that it was intriguing and that you enjoyed it. Thank you.